class of the master course in multi-bagger stock picking, and we will get used to each other, uh, and we will be using a dual technology to communicate with each other. So what we are going to do is we will form a WhatsApp group as we go into the class, and all your queries address me on WhatsApp, and I will reply to those queries of our class when the sections are over of the class. So let me introduce myself to you. I am Vineet Bolinchkar. I have close to 25 years of work experience in the stock markets. I have been head of research with a premier broking organization since 2009, and I continue to do so. And I have a passion to teach. And as part of that teaching, I'm offering this course to you guys. And what I have seen is that over the last few years, ever since the big bull run took off, it's been, and what happens is multi-bagger stock picks. So while I was I said, can there be a template for uh, picking multi-bagger stocks? And keeping the nuances of equity research in mind, I have broken this down into 12 dimensions toolbox. So I call it the 12 dimension toolbox. And of late, I've added another 13th one, which is not to do with multi-bagger stock picking, but it is part of the family of stock picking, which is portfolio allocation and concentration. I believe that apart from picking multi-bagger stock ideas, it is important to have a decent allocation to multi-bagger stock ideas to generate maximum. So having said that, I am now going to start directly onto the screen. And before I go ahead, I would like to uh, welcome all the members as well as the guests who have logged in for the trial session, which is for a period of 2 sessions. So without much ado, let's swing into action and let's start off with our program. Okay, for the sake of our viewers, what I'm going to do is I am going to gradually fade away from the will be on the screen. But before I do that, I would like to walk you through the master course in picking multi-bagger stock ideas. Today is the class 1, and uh, let's see how we will be conducting this class. Obviously, you know it's an online course. It started today, not July 15th. Okay, it was a week of July 15th. So you will be in class with me for 9 weeks, 2 sessions per week, and each class will be for 2 hours. These classes will be conducted on fixed days, Thursdays and Saturdays, Thursdays at 7:30 and Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Okay, in class 1 to 4, we will be taking a look at the introduction to my proprietary 12 dimensions investment toolbox, right? In today's class, we will be going through all the 12 dimensions. We'll have a brief look at them, and we will study only 2 of them today because I want the class to get used to my style of functioning. I also would like to understand how well or how easily you understand my things. Would you want me to repeat things? Would you want me to go fast, slow, or should I make it a mix of fast and slow? That we will go as per the feedback that I get from you, right? Over the next 3 classes, we will complete all these 12 dimensions. A number of assignments will be given to you, where each assignment should not take you more than 30 minutes of work. right? And then we'll be going into classes 5 to 12, right? This will be where we will be looking at 8 different industries. We will be taking 8 stocks for consideration, and we'll be doing a con call with the management if possible. You understand that if it is available. So we might pick up a stock for analysis. The con call may have already been conducted and the management may not be available with us, right? So we will do this only if and only if the management is available. But it is my best endeavor to get them on chat with us. These con call will be the classes that we conduct, because each con call itself will be about 45 minutes to an hour, right? So that extra value for you. And I'm just going to switch off from the webcam now. Okay. Building, screeners, data mining, management, investor psychology, and any other topics that you would like me to address, we will take it up in the last class. That would be over and above all this. All your questions, which are in addendum to what we are talking, uh, will be conducted with this. Okay. So obviously you have all paid the fees, and I need not remind you of that. Video recordings are available for offline viewing, so you can always get back to me, and later on, if you have any more information, you may WhatsApp. Just one of our colleagues, one of our students is calling me up, so I just need to break for a call for a minute. Hello. Yeah, I have started. We have already started the class. Uh, okay, just give me 5 minutes. Let me give me 5 minutes. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I'm there, na? So Gurjeet, can I just give you one person's number? Okay. Can you just assist him, please, if you don't mind? Yeah, just I'm WhatsApping it to you. Huh? Yeah, yeah. Thank you. My apologies, but one of our very anxious students required that I spend more time. He could not log in and listen to the course. So, anyways, here we go, right? Uh, so, the secret to extraordinary success in investing lies in the 12 dimension investment toolbox. Okay, so what does this toolbox consist of? It actually towards specifics. So we have the first class, which is about leadership, teams, stakeholders, and growth hunger. Here we evaluate all the people who are connected with the business. because it is the people that make us start a business and not vice versa. So people who run the business are more important than the business itself. Okay, here we are talking about intention, integrity, vision, ability, capability, analytics, strategizing, and all these facets go with it. Okay, so we'll be looking at a lot of things in detail. What makes a good promoter, a bad promoter, good business, bad business. We'll be looking at all these things. Okay, then the second part is about business prospects and opportunity heat map. So in this, what we are going to actually analyze is the top-down approach. So when we say the top-down approach is obviously you fit into a system, right? So how is the system prospects? So when you talk of system prospects, we refer to geographies where the business is conducted. So let us say you are investing in India, right? If India does not have great prospects, no matter what kind of business you put up, it will never succeed. Okay, or you are always limited by the size of the uh, outlook for the economy. Okay, once you have figured out the macro, we come more specifically to the sector in which you operate, and therein lies the opportunity heat map. Here we are looking at all the stakeholders in the game, this how the sector is correlated to the economy, how based on the prospects of the country, how will that sector blossom, and what is the size of the industry and how it is going. So let us imagine that you have a 1,000 crore industry with 15 players active in that. If you were to go into that industry, would it really make sense for you if you are a large corporation? No, because 15 players, you can go and do a lot of stuff out there, definitely. But if you're a large corporation and you are trying to do 200-300 crores of business, yes, you can do it. But would it mean anything for your bottom line? It wouldn't. So then we have to focus on businesses which make sense. So, let me give you, we'll come to, just to give you an example, is there's a company called Foseco, which deals with a lot of chemicals and materials for the steel industry. Now, the size of that industry is very small and it's growing at a meager 5 to 6%. So, being a nano industry with nano opportunities, wouldn't make sense, right? So, that's how we take all these things into perspective. Then we look at the third thing is business readiness and the growth curve. What do we mean by business readiness and growth curve? Having analyzed the promoters, their capabilities, looked at the uh, business prospects and the opportunity heat map, then we come to see how the business is positioned to take on the opportunity and how fast or slow are we going to grow. What are the triggers and how well the business is positioned to take off. These are things that we do. So we have a look at the historicals, we look at the strategy of the business, and then we analyze the performance of the company, right? So that's what we see. What is the potential of the business? Yes, at this stage we are only talking about current status quo and we are not getting into the area of future outlook at all. Okay, we are juxtaposing the company to see how well it is positioned to write the outlook. Having done that, then we will get into what is called peer set analysis and evaluation. So if you have, let us take the example of a sector which is quite hot these days is the steel sector. If you believe that a company that you have shortlisted is looking very interesting for you to delve further, uh, just going with that industry by itself is not right. What we need to do is we need to look at the other players in this industry too. Okay, so it's like a swayamvar, right? So you like a girl, but you would like to get a better, let us not say girl because we also have girl students out here. So let us say that you have a selection of a spouse and you would like to have the better one, right? So this is what fourth set will, the fourth dimension will be telling us all about. So all this we are expected to prepare us for the grind, and that grind is nothing but analyzing in micro details the number crunching and forecasting based on probabilistic scenarios and how the demand drivers, the supply factors impact the stock. Once we are done with the forecasting, right, preparing an outlook for the industry, we get into the sixth dimension, which is tracking the progress, monitoring, validation, and reassessment. So what is all this all about? Having created an outlook for a stock and having invested in the stock, okay, we look at how the company is moving along, okay, how the progress has been, whether it is meeting all the milestones that you had in mind, is it measuring up to your forecasts, and it, in a sense, you are validating your story. And if certain drivers or things are changing, then you need to update them in your model, and this is what we call as reassessment. So this is how we go about it. It's a complete, exhaustive, and a categorical analysis which leaves no stone unturned. Once we have done all these works, you know, a multi-bagger stock is different from a regular stock in the sense that it has got a couple of things. One is that they have a moat, and two, they have operating leverage. So what we mean by operating leverage? So basically what it means is that the growth of the business is non-linear in the sense that the profit growth is far in excess of the revenue growth. And uh, so if you do 100 rupees of revenue, today you made 10 rupees profit. Now when you make 1000 rupees of revenue, you should be making not 100 rupees profit, but maybe 300 and 400. So that is what we mean by operating leverage. And moat is a very, very difficult term. It's basically what sets the company apart from its competitors, which is foolproof for it, right? And which not other people can replicate. Okay, so I'll give you a very classic example. Let us take the Reliance refining business. It's the difference between the Reliance refinery and the others is the fact that it has a high Nelson's index. So what it means is that it can take even the most inferior form of crude and pump out the best products, you know, so that not every refinery has. And that is a moat for this company. A moat for a Sterlite Industries would be the fact that it is backward integrated end to end. So you start from sand and you're making right up to the fiber cables. So in effect, what you are doing is you're completely capturing the value chain, and which is not being done by many other players. And what's more is that the most cost effective globally. So this cost effectiveness for Sterlite is its moat. Or let's take the example of NCC. For NCC, its ability is that it can execute very well, which not everybody has, right? So that is a mode for this business. Or you take the case of dredging corporation. So you have a company which can dredge at a very low cost. Other people, when they come to India, dredgers, they are completely out of whack on the economics of the business. Okay, once we have done this, we then go move on to the factor of valuation, potential, and re-rating. Okay, so here what we are doing is, after having set the business, done the forecasting, here we will be learning the tools to value a business and what is the kind of money that you can make out of it. So far, you are only investing time, energy, and money into the business, and now is the time to assess what you will make out of this business. So we apply the various valuation potentials, and this is what will segregate you from all the other players in the market. The way we do valuation and the way we practice it is very, very practical and very, very aligned to the way the markets are moving. So we believe that this is the moat of School of Market Studies, right? Once we have done all the valuation potential re-rating, we will look at the factors of stock selection. So where you should be investing your money. And we believe that what is left on the table is what we invest in. So we do stock selection simply through the criteria of elimination. So, you reject ideas, and what is left is the idea that you invest. Okay. Having seen this, the next big thing that we need to do is while we are tracking our businesses, what we call scuttlebutt, ardor, and zeal. Just being a Excel junkie or an internet junkie, collating data from the net, analyzing, evaluating is not enough. You have to go there out in the street, meet people, go the extra mile, talk to the environment in which the business operates. You need to look at the dealers, what the clients are saying, the customers, uh, their vendors. Understand everything. How is the working capital? Do they pay on time? Don't pay on time? Then you need to have ardor and zeal to do this. Ardor is doing the hard work, and zeal is enthusiasm. A lot of people, just ignore this 10th dimension, but it is so very important. I cannot uh, highlight it to you. And 11 is the mindset of multi-bagger investing. So, when the market is selling off like the way we are doing since January, you know, the best of best investors get in two minds because the stock corrects deeply and they do not know what to do. So, multi-bagger investing needs a totally different mindset. You need extreme high levels of conviction, and we will help you build exactly that. We will get into the psychology of multi-bagger investing in such great detail with such ardor and zeal that we will bulletproof your mind to it. And last but not the least is your 6T investing. So we are entering a phase where businesses are getting exponential. Technology is coming through and disruption is the order of the day. So here we look at how to involve this and see if your business is going to get disrupted or is it disrupted itself to handle disruption that is coming through. And finally, as I mentioned, we've added one more factor to this is portfolio concentration and allocation, and we will be looking at this as we get along. So folks, that was in short what you will be learning throughout this course, but it was important to highlight to you how we are going through this entire thing, and for this reason I have taken the liberty of spending some time with you on the overall contents of this course. Having said this, we will be getting into dimension one, and that is leadership, stakeholders, and growth hunger. But before that, I would just like to take a 2-minute break so that I can re-energize myself and come to you with a fresh perspective, and you too are, kind of settled within yourself. Okay, so be back with you right after this short break. Okay, folks. So I'm back, and we will go ahead with the first, our first dimension, and that is the leadership team, stakeholders, and growth hunger. So when we talk about leadership team, stakeholders, and growth hungers, what do you mean? As I told you in the beginning of the class that it's people who run the business and not the other way around, and therefore it is important to know who leads the company, isn't it? Who are the promoters? What are their intentions? Do they have the capability? Do they have the ability? What has been their previous success rate? Uh, who is the promoter and the team separate? What is the pedigree of the promoters? What is the uh, background of the leadership team? What is the passion that they bring to the business? How bullish are they about the business? What is their grit, their drive, their determination, and how well it is going to grow? Because people plus energy is equal to growth. We should always remember this. People plus energy channelized together will give you focused growth, and people plus energy which is channelized and moving in the same direction will lead you to hyper growth. So what we are essentially looking for is that are the promoters focused on driving the business and driving the business. That is it. What is their motive? How are they doing it? Do they eat, sleep, drink business? This is the ideal state that should be there for a shareholder who's investing in a company. And the growth hunger comes from what they want to achieve, where they want to be. You know, what what are their new plans? Okay, so this is what keeps driving up a business, right? So let us now get on with it. Okay, so what in our analysis there there should be no bias. So a business can either be good or it can be bad. Okay, a promoter is good or a promoter is bad. When we say when we say that a promoter is good or a promoter is bad, we are not any aspirations on the person as such. Also, barring for narcotics, which is actually a great business, no business is bad, isn't it? So be it the business of maintenance or it be the business of space research. All businesses have their good points, their need in the society, and hence we cannot mean that a business is bad. But what when we say that a business is, to my mind, when I'm telling you to say that a business is good or bad, actually what we are trying to say is that the prospects of the business are either on an up move or the prospects of a business are going down. right? So that is how we define a good business and a bad business, number one. And a good promoter and a bad promoter is the person is excellent. No person is good or bad, but the aspirations and the drive of a person may not be good for the business. So just to keep it very simplistic for ourselves, we will call it a good promoter, bad promoter, good business, bad business. So, in multi-bagger stock selection, it is important to know who's running the business and how well it is run. This should be your starting point or ending point of your analysis. So, if you feel that the business is bad and the promoter is bad, do not look at that stock at all. Okay? So, that is one company to analyze less. It is very important to have little bit of positivity about anything. So let's take the example of the gems and jewelry business. Okay, it is notorious for its uh, over the years it has been a notorious industry because everything has been fictitious building. And when you have like PC and a business of that time, you're marrying bad to bad. So we stay away from those kind of businesses. Because then what happens? You come across a business like Tata Steel. Tata Steel would be a great business to invest in, and the Godrej in real estate would be a great industry to be in with the Godrej. So this is what we mean by a business which is bad and good management. Okay, now let's take the case of another business, software TCS. Great business, great promoter, isn't it? Nothing to worry about. But what happens is that in such a kind of business which has got the best characteristics of a good business and the promoter, you are not really going to get a multi-bagger stock because the valuation potential has is at the optimum. It is only the business prospects which are going to drive it. Do you think PE expansion of TCS would take place? Not much, isn't it? But if you have a business like PCJ and that is taken over by the Tatas, then you have a different ball game running in because the business would get be re-rated because of the TCS coming in, isn't it? The Tatas coming in. Or let's talk about a business where the promoter boy is really, really notorious for all his uh, activities which are below the line, isn't it? Let's talk of the Raymond, the complete man. Okay, great business, very strong brand, has recall for 75 years, but a promoter who just doesn't know how to run this business. And what happens is that the business that is the the light green and the pink boxes that we have highlighted, these are actually where you should be focusing your energies. Because if you have a great business and things suddenly start turning around at the promoter level, or with the leadership team, or with the introduction of new personnel in the business, you know, things can start turning around. That is one. Or you take the case of a business with Tata's at the helm and the prospects are changing. So steel industry recently went through very good times, and if you had gotten into this business when the cycle was turning around, you would have been in a totally different uh, position financially. I'm sure most of you have bought Tata Steel sometime in your life. So this is what we mean by focusing on the promoter quality and the business quality. What you need to do is to be very specific. See if there is a promoter change for the better. See if there is a leadership team coming in. And three, see if there are individual stalwarts coming into the business. So let us say that a company appoints McKinsey to do a strategic reorganization of its business. That is a thing which should make you sit up and dig what is going on. Escorts had McKinsey do their business rejig, and that stock since then has been up almost 8 to 9 fold. Or you take the case of Jyotish Limited. What did the promoter do? An extremely aggressive promoter bit off more than he could chew. In a normal condition, what you would have considered, the market would have beaten that stock down because he took on more than he could handle, raised significant amount of debt, right? And so you put your business under stress. Your existence, if it went wrong, would really put you in trouble, isn't it? But what he did is when he took on the business, he also selected a very crack team of personnel who understand the FMCG business. So bringing in a crack team, individuals who are handpicked for their role, they're very specific to their role. Today we are seeing a company, a very fledgling micro cap in FMCG. Today is at about 8,000 crores market cap. Okay, so in a span of about 4 to 5 years, they have really turned it around. You know, Today the company is almost debt free. Promoter is to take huge amounts of dividend because he wanted to pay back his debt, because he had pledged his shares, raised money to take on Henkel's business. And what has really happened is now the company, supercharged from the success of its previous leverage buyout, is now all ready to up its game for another bigger acquisition. And as a good sense, the company has lowered the debt. They're shoring up its budgets. And over the next couple of years, the company will be having cash flows of between 5 to 800 crores, you know, in surplus to what they already have. So that is really, really going to provide them currency for an acquisition. So this is what I mean by leadership, uh, team stakeholders, and growth hunger. Okay, uh, a little bit on business structures which go around. So typically in India, you have family-held businesses, you have widely held companies, and we have state-owned enterprises. These others don't apply to our Indian structure of the listed stock exchange. But what I want to tell you is that a lot of understand that they have limitations to managing business. You know, so Mukesh Ambani can uh, Okay, sorry, there was a glitch, the slight internet problem, but now we are back. So, what happens is that there are certain family owned businesses which are not really able to manage their businesses, and then you have to bring professionals in. So, take the case of see how these India's top business groups by assets have changed. You know, over the period from 1950 to 2017, Tata's have been ranked number one throughout. You know, Birla's, who was second for till 90s, slowly they have kind of come down to the third level. You know, and suddenly there was no in 1950s there was no Ambani, and at number three you have Ambani, you have Mukesh Ambani at number two, and see at four you have Anil Ambani. See, JK Singhania Group was at number four. It doesn't feature in the top 20 as of 2016. Okay, Bajaj was at 7 in 1990, they are at 20. Okay, and the entire juggernaut has changed, isn't it? TVS, which was at number 10 in 90s, is nowhere to be found in the 21st century. So essentially, what has happened is that, you know, there is a saying that the first generation starts the business, the second runs the business, and the third ends the business. So, one such characteristic which applies is to Anil Ambani. He has absolutely destroyed the inheritance that he got. Okay. So, you know, when you move through family owned businesses, you have to actually see who are leading the businesses because they can kill the business. Okay. These businesses can really get killed. Take the case of Wokhart, second generation, you know, great business, but the son, frankly, has no interest in the enterprise. And what is happening is that enterprise is just, despite having some of the most fantastic is just meandering around. You know, nobody even looks at that stock. So these are some of the examples that I would like to point out to you. And what really happens is that, you know, there should be a transition from a family owned to a promoter owned business. So rather than having a husband and wife and uncle and aunt and cousins and in-laws on the seat of board, what should happen is that there should be a professional team which takes over. There is succession planning involved. Okay, there is delegation of authority and responsibility. And in today's world where decision making can make or mar your business, you know, today this margin of error is very less. So you need companies which are moving professional. Okay, so if you take the case of the Hero Group, you know, the Munjals have actually become uh, stakeholders, stake owners, and the entire operations are run privately by a professional leadership team. You know, so you need to identify all these things that happen. I'd like to give you a classic case of a company which did not do, which was actually going to go under, but somehow there is a possibility of an opportunity happening there. The the case study is that of Kisan Moldings. Yes, one of the premier companies in the PVC business. You know, they did not have money to pay that. They did not have money to even pay 10,000 rupee checks. At that point, what happened is one of the sons of the promoter, Riquin, who used to work with Morgan Stanley, came back to the country, and you know what he did to understand the business. He went and met Phenolics, his competitors. And the Phenolics management were very receptive, and they told him what he was doing wrong. And he came back, okay, immediately called a family meeting, okay. All the investors who wanted out, he had them out, consolidated shareholding, made it a point to see that he had all they were all answerable to him, that he had become the leader. And then he went about changing the company step by step, slowly, you know, uh, getting the dealers to uh, reinvest in his inventory, because the dealers were saying that people ask for your products, but you don't have product to give me. So he bought the dealers back with him. Distribution was set up. They did a vertical segregation of their businesses. Okay, they saw what was happening. By doing small things, like typically a truck of pipes goes for about 5 lakhs value. Now what they did is they would not load a truck until it was 8 lakhs worth. Okay, so now you'll ask me, how can you load pipe more than 5 lakhs? So what they did, in the volume of the pipe which are empty, they put in pipe fittings and solvent. So by size these products were small, but by value they were large. So taking a consignment from 5 lakh to 8 lakh, at the same cost, they brought down their freight cost. So, taking measures of these type, uh, keeping their term loans constant, winning over the bankers' uh, faith, renewing their credit lines, okay, and growing the business in the same amount of finance availability is how they unlock their working capital cycle. Okay, they put pressure on the sales team, okay, crunch the working capital, started moving products which were value added, got into value added, and from 40 crores of monthly turnover, you will now see that company moved to 60-65 crore turnover per month. Okay, that's a 50% growth. So from 400-450 crores, you could possibly see the company at 700-800 crores, and then moving on to 1100 crores. Now the stage is set. Okay, now we have to see how the company delivers. And just taking a leaf from section 2, where we talk about opportunity heat map, you'll notice that the company has meager 1% market share. Okay, they were market leaders then, now they have 1% market share. And for this company, growing in the market at 15%, growing their market share by 1% should not be very difficult. Okay, this company had done some very unthought out expansion which had landed them in a mess. The people had got greedy. They put up capacities in 8 locations cumulatively, and that is what got them cash strapped. So now they are repaying their debt through the sale of the assets, and all the other measures that they have taken is possible. Now this was possible only because of the young blood which came in, right? He had the humility to go and talk to his competitors, and the competitors' largest was that they welcomed him, they told him what was wrong with the business, and it was his greatness that he heeded their advice. It was either swim or drown for them. Okay. And another very important thing is, how much skin in the game do you have? Okay. Then also, if you can do business on your own, are you open to alliances with JVs, global opportunities? Okay. What kind of an open mind do you have? To my mind, these 5-6 things, if you could call them so, uh, and put to you on a more generic level, are very innately required of a promoter. And if you find any of these kind of things missing, you should have a little doubt about the capability of the management. Okay, so here we have prepared a checklist of what are the things that you should be looking at. So you have to see skin in the game, obviously, how much stake does he have. So a promoter with 75% stake is better than a promoter with 13% stake, isn't it? What is the past experience? How long they've been in the business, allied businesses, adjacent businesses, if I may call it. What are the precedents, education, research? What are the other businesses? Are they at conflict with the existing business? Uh, Composition of the board, corporate governance. Is the company promoter driven professional, as we spoke to you? Leadership team and hierarchy structure. The organizational OBV, what we call it, organizational business vision is very important. Another thing you can check from a website. A website is a face of a company in today's markets. So from changes in a website, you can say how the company is evolving. It speaks a lot about how customer friendly and oriented you are. And there are a couple of tools which are available which can help you see how the website seemed 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago. You should undertake that kind of thing. One thing is very important in vision and dream. So what do I mean by vision? What you dream to do, what are your aspirations? How are you planning the future of your company in 10 years? That's very important. Now, a lot of companies have got very, very vague mission statements, vision statements. And when you find a statement which is very vague and which is very global and typically morphing into generalities, you must actually go and spend 15-20 minutes with that management and ask him about his vision to be more specific. Okay, then you need to see who are the stakeholders. So are there big entities investing in him? Do other people believe that he has got the capabilities? So if a SoftBank comes and invests in your company, then you might as well be sure that there must be some potential. Similarly, any PE funds out there, all these things are good indicators of the capability of a promoter. Okay. Then we spoke of specific names of large individual and institutional holdings. Now, see, typically a micro cap, mid cap stock will not have any institutional holdings, but I've included it for being thorough in our checklist. Then you should see a 5-year analysis for the long term and 8 years, 8-quarter performance of short term for shareholding patterns. What is the promoter buyback participation? Promoter hunger you can get from his body language, goal, and strategy. The deeper the strategy, the more layered it is, the better for you. And how long has the management been there? What is the stability of the team? And finally, what is the promoter pledge? To my mind, promoter pledge is not a bad thing at all. Okay. But the reason why he pledged the shares is very important. So is he pledging his shares to fund another business? Or is he pledging the shares to fund the same business that the shares are of? It makes a lot of difference. Okay. So that's with our checklist for the promoters. And just as I explained to you a case of Kisan, let's look at Raymond Limited. Okay. So there we saw a bad promoter and a good company, a good business. Here also we are going to see an example of a good business, bad promoter, and how the turnaround happens. Okay, so 3-4 years back, the stock of Raymond was always around 350 bucks, 400. And the company allegations were that it was run for the welfare of the promoter families. So the allegations were the promoters siphoned funds for personal use by buying jets, cars, yachts, and constructing huge mansion in South Mumbai for their personal use. They were also rumored to spend about 100, close to 200 rupees for redeveloping the property used for residential purpose by the promoters. Then there was another allegation the company had a net profit of 197 crores in the last 10 years, while in the same period it charged 327 crores expenses for assets and additionally 56 crores was paid as remuneration to the promoters. So what happens is you start thinking that Raymond, the complete man, is Nusli Wadia or anybody else, right? So what happened is that we need to see a few things that took place. The promoter started buying his own stock somewhere in FY13. Okay. And FY16 onwards, he has been consistently buying his stock. Okay. Well, this data is still December 17, but he bought some stake even a few months back. Okay. So that is the first sign. So when a promoter starts picking up his shares, is the time when you will start looking into it and it should, whiff up your nose like something is cooking types. Okay, then there was a lot of family squabbles, and to keep things short, what I will tell you is that the new CMD, Gautam Singhania, he got himself personal interest aligned with that of minority shareholders. Okay, then there was a Raymond 2.0 or the unfolding of a new strategy. This is the yes, many company years about marketing and when what was dynamic property and individuals all walks of fast moving consumer durable is working and these would face the customer. This was this was and then advice was constituted money. Okay, when you think honey, words that come is pure uh, uh, that that the product was getting hungry for market cap. To by a couple of very getting a shareholder very and him uh, receptive, know, and the put stakeholder at heart and focus was on increasing the business value. Culture was about enhancing shareholders' wealth in the long years. Not only did he stake for his interest market cap, two talking about it, three started and four was any of the organization was and completely focused on ROE with shareholder value creation. Not this is what is all about. In my mind, promoter analysis 80% is okay. And so if you more evaluating the promoter, evaluating people, analyzing they are, where they come from, what prospect, what are their background, their previous success stories, what are their vision stand for, what is their growth hunger, what is their uh, what is their uh, strategy. This is what sets up from multibagger. A coach does things is becoming a multibagger. Increasing the business, running the business, 20% of it. It is the people of the business. We have the right people, they're interested, they have ease, they have skin in the game, they are there for the long term, and you have it made. Okay, so we can go on, but because we have power pack schedule and power uh, session, I am going to now move ahead. So we are interestingly we are a little over an hour now, and before we move on, second, I would like to go back a bit, reframe everything for our thoughts, and again we take one small toilet break. Okay, so let us start with the fact that businesses are of two types: a good business, bad business, good promoter, bad promoter. A bad becomes a good business as a change. If you are in that right time with a good promoter, the chances are that you're things very quickly. You know, the pink and the green box, this is where maybe can happen. For a dark green box, the potential is not that much, only the E potential, the earning potential. And the red boxes are to be frankly strictly avoided completely. Oh, it's important to move to a professional business for the various things that we need to check up for leadership and hunger. This is the check I spoke about. All these will be sent in the post lecture. We spoke, we saw how he increased stake, uh, the decisions along the line of the minority shareholders, the new look of the business being more and having the in places to do the right strategy as such. Then we talked about focus was on value creation, and from 3 I moved to 1200. Today we are around levels, and it's a great business to buy. There is no brand, Godrej brand, which got appeal even in tier. So we will take a slightly extended. I will see you back at 20:45, that is 45, and we will spend the next 45 minutes going through the business prospects and the opportunity heat map. That is dimension two of the 12 dimension investment tool. I would request all of you to provide me a feedback on my WhatsApp in these 5 minutes, so that if I'm going fast, you have not a few things. We have a few questions to shoot at me. Kindly do that. I will also personally as each one of you. Okay, so again at 5. Okay, people, I'm back and we are off for the second dimension, which is business prospects and opportunity heat map. Okay, so some of our colleagues asked questions in the webinar box. I would request that you leave your question on WhatsApp. Kindly drop your question on WhatsApp. I'm more comfortable. The screen is clean for me, so and I'm much more comfortable using. So if any one of you have any questions to ask, please go ahead, do that. Okay, your questions out here. Okay, so let's get on with our next, which is business prospects and map. So if you are looking to do a little analysis, we always look at uh, a lot of things, isn't it? We look at the country countries prospects. So when you think of countries prospects, what is the first thing that comes to mind? It's the GDP, isn't it? So people will say that the GDP rate of the country, right? So a few factors that we look at by uh, evaluating GDP, macro factors, is we'll be. So I'm going to talk to you about both things together, and see how the macro and the sectoral outlook weave into each other. Take into consideration all these factors and then talk about. So the factors are that have now we will juxtapose this entire information on one particular sector. So let us take the cement industry as such. Okay. So the cement industry is affected by a number of factors on which the demand is. Okay. So they can be many of them. So you have uh, urban demand. So you have housing. One of the demand can come from two sides, urban and rural, isn't it? So let us take urban out here and go ahead and understand this. So when you're talking of urban housing, you're obviously the first thing that you'll be looking at is interest rates, because interest rates are the factors that impact uh, the demand for housing, because housing is a high cost item. It requires a lot of investment. It takes virtually years to build up that nest egg, and hence it can make or mar the demand. So typically what happens is when the interest rates are lower, the the incentive to invest or save, is far lower than the urge to spend. So what happens is interest rates are low, money moves to various other financial assets. So it moves to gold, it moves to silver, it moves to land. Okay, it moves to property. So people generally buy when the interest rates are lower. When the interest rates are lower, the consumption spending starts taking off. Okay, so that is one thing that impacts the interest rates. Then another thing that impacts housing demand is LTV, which we call the loan to value ratio. So sometimes what happens when the property market up, the RBI doesn't want you know a few segments of the economy only doing well. So what they do is they tweak the loan to value ratio. So if the loan to value ratio is 95%, what it means is that for 100 rupees of property value, if you get 5 rupees, 95 given as loan, you know. So they might bring you to 50, where you have to cover 50 and you can take 50 as loan. So take the case of government support. Now the Awas Yojana of the Pradhan Mantri's Awas Yojana is a huge trigger for housing demand in the country. It may not be urban housing, but for low cost housing, which is both urban and rural, it is fantastic. Then what impacts demand in the number of dwellings? I mean, telling the number of units that are being. So if you have huge supply coming in, right, then it will be the demand may not be enough to satiate that supply. So we see how the demand and the supply is coming. So if you have, see, we are a economy. That means there is shortage of housing, and so the prices are very high. Okay. Then we talk of home loans. Just we LTV. Then we speak of subsidy, policy support. If you give infra status, a lot of factors come in. FSI. So how much you can build on how much land. Then we can have regulation. So just like FSI, you have VERA, which is regulation. So earlier builders could run amok and do many projects at one time. Today, because of regulation being introduced, builders are more committed and answerable and responsible to their flat owners. Then we talk of income levels. If your income levels are going to be low, are you going to be able to buy a house? No. So the way the income levels are, so these are macro factors. The tax in given us, the CPI again, inflationary. Urbanization is a social movement where people are moving from rural to uh, urban areas. This is a global phenomenon. India, we think that everyone is in Mumbai and Delhi and stuff like that. But if you go abroad and you see, urbanization is at 6%. India, it is only 30%. So people are going to continuously move towards cities. Cities are continuously going to grow, and the prices of flats in the cities will also keep rising. You know, people talk of corrections coming in, barring for time corrections where rates remain flat for a while. We haven't really seen any kind of deep correction set in. Then urbanization also a function of population growth. Then we talk of the DP plan. How the plan is shaping up. Which areas the growth is going to come. So if you do this kind of analysis as a real estate investor, tell me how many of us actually go and have looked at the development plan. Nobody does it. It's only the builder does it. If you pick a DP plan and say that, okay, here is a which is coming up at a crossroad, and at a crossroad, a commercial property gets significant value. So you will say that, over the next 3 to 5 years, this area will become populated. This is currently a sparse area. In 5 years, 3 to 5 years time, it will be populated, and I'm going to get a 5, 7 times money out there. Let me go out there and invest. I think if you look at a DP plan and plan your investment, it is the biggest benefit that you can give yourself in the real estate market, and this will set you apart from all the other investors. Then we talk about properties prices, housing shortages, personal tax collections. If the government collects more money, it will spend more on infrastructure. If it spends more on infra, you'll get better value for your property, isn't it? Private equity has become big responsible for the continuance of growth and multi skyscrapers coming into the metropolitan regions. Okay, having seen all this with quasi macro and industry related data, number of things that you must see on the side of the um, macro is going to be the IIP, or the industrial production, or the PMI, which is a proxy to the IIP, purchasing index. How bullish are they on investments and growth of the economy? FDI, how much money is coming in? Investment, what is the occupancies? You know, duties. What is the GFA, or the gross fixed asset formation happening? The wholesale pricing, manufacturing policy, direct tax collections, corporate taxes. What are the bond rates? As we said, lower the bond rate, greater is the demand, and vice versa. Depreciation incentives given, industrial policies, private equity, retail, online, uh, host of other measures. So, if you take the cement industry as such, typically we see how does it function. So you will see that it at or in line with the GDP of the country. Yesterday, I was quite surprised when Ultratech came and said that they expect cement demand to grow at 8% in the country. 8% is a lot when your economy is growing at 7.5%, and expecting 8% demand growth. That is a very bullish number, you know, because that's like 1.2 times, which is the peak that the cement demand has done in the country. Okay, of course, different segments, different geographies work at different levels, but typically this is how we look at the thing. Other things that we look for in a cement industry, or which is general to every, I will go slow with this, is to check the growth. So, when you talk of growth, it is typically in two parts. One is growth, okay, and the other is the volume growth. Okay, so for cement industry, the price of at which cement is sold and the amount of cement, metric tons or bags of cement that are pushed into the markets, big drivers. Okay, recently what has been happening is that the volume growth has been very healthy. It's been upwards of 20% for certain geographies. Like if you go to Hyderabad, which is a flourishing real estate market, there it is close to 20%. Okay, but the pricing is just not there because the supply is the market is oversupplied. Occupancy levels uh, or capacity utilization for the industry is at about 70%. Till a while back, there was a great price uh, unity in the among the players of South. But ever since Ultratech has become a national player, they're a behemoth. 88 million tons going to 92. Okay, Binani on the also in this way, and to push close to 100 million tons of cement every year is a very tall task. And they have been the spoil sports in the price cartel. So to gain market share, they have been dropping prices, and this has been hurting the other players. So so we need to see the geographical demand, who are the players, what are the capacities, how the each micro markets are doing. Cement is all about micro markets, districts. Okay, cement has got a element of freight involved. You need to transport cement from your plant to a location, right? Freight costs involved. Cement is an energy intensive industry. They use pet coke, they use coal. There's a ban on pet coke, and if that ban, which is been allowed for cement, pet coke ban is there in the country, exclusively to cement, it is there. Now, if that gets included for cement too, people would be hurt. So anyone who's focused on pet coke, for example, Sri Cement is 100% pet coke, he'll have a problem. Those who have got multi-fuel facilities, so you take the likes of Dalmia, which has got multi-fuel facility, is a large player now. So things are really, how should we say, moving along just fine, right? Other to look at in cement sector are how many years of reserves do you have? Have Ambuja and ACC are falling down? They're available almost at replacement. That is because they don't have clinker. So cement, right? Then cement also is a power intensive industry. We spoke factors like pet coke, lignite, gas, furnace oil. It's all an interplay of all these five things. And what is your fuel? So cement has got is a very difficult industry to get it right. Primarily, there are too many moving parts. So you have value volume on the top line, okay, and you have freight cost, you have growth of the domestic, your micro markets, you have pricing of your raw material, your fuel, and your energy, right? All this affects business a lot. So it's got a lot of moving parts, and although it's a simple, it should be easy to play, but too many parts makes it very difficult. This to steel. So steel also has a freight. It has got high energy, right? But it's not like cement to that extent. So every time, whenever you're doing analysis, when you're talking of the cement industry in particular, what are the things that we are looking at? Let me reframe them. Okay. One is that prior to doing the cement industry, let's do a macro. Assess how well the economy is doing. So when we are assessing how well the economy is doing, we look at the GDP, we look at the IIP, okay, we look at gross fixed asset formation, we look at investment, and we look at government policies encouraging trade. So the government currently has done a lot around rural development. Let me, perhaps you will never get this analysis out in the street. Let me put all things together for you. You know, if you notice Modi is inclined towards rural, typically what is a poor man looking for? If you see the life of the poor and the downtrodden, let me give you an example. Is if you were to say that they wanted a 2 lakh rupee house, which is about 200, 300 square feet, themselves, what really they require is money to build the house. Now, from their field, they don't get too much vagaries of the monsoon, vagaries of rain, vagaries of the weather, quality of the seed, uh, some kind of infection to their crop. Always ruin their, uh, always ruin their thing. The crop. The crop earnings were not very um, stable. Okay, they always had to do piecemeal jobs. Okay, they did not have a proper house to stay in. They would time fall sick, right? A lot of that money would be taken on crooked doctors. Now, Modi he comes out with a comprehensive policy. So he gets farm insurance, which then he security. So he's done around water, he's seeds, he's done around soil, he's done everything around farming so that you get the money. In fact, MSP is a clincher for him because investment they will get 50% return, isn't it? So 50% gross, very healthy, they might earn 15-20% net, that is what he'll get, right? So that is one thing that he has done around farm security. Okay, so that the farmer is in all the vagaries of that they face historically. Number two he has done is that provided you a house. Now just imagine if you are building a 2 lakh rupee house, it would take you 10 years to accumulate that kind of money, and that would become 50 because someone in a house would fall sick and that money would be taken away. But today you have that Ayushman Bharat policy, and he is building a house for you and giving you, right? So your farm, your house, your health, your cooking, toilet, your hygiene, uh, free napkins for girls, uh, free education for girls, right to your village. Okay, what he has actually done is he has made a base for a who was struggling to earn for his need. Now his entire earnings will be spent on consumption. It's phenomenal when you think about it. Okay, and that cash which is saved will have a money multiplier which is 15 to 17 times, and over the next 5 to 7 years can to kind of growth which uncomprehended. In fact, I would be willing to sit with some macroeconomic analyst and work out the kind of numbers that it would lead to. Okay, and in fact this would be writing of a blog which can be a healthy debate. So this is what is being done around the rural, and we expect rural growth to pick up, right? Uh, Rural growth has expanded or outnumbered urban growth, which is around 8%. Now rural growth is around 9%. So this is going to lead to a lot of cement demand. Also, what is happening is that all your industries are operating at an average of 75 to 80% capacity utilization. So somewhere, if your industry grows, if your growth is at around 8%, 7.5 to 8%, and your inflation of 4 to 5%, still growing at 13%. Okay, so on 80%, 13% would be 13 eights are 104, 10%. You'll be hitting 90% capacity utilization somewhere of next September. And that is when between now and then you will see a number of announcements along capital investments coming into play, right? Now, just like your arteries in your or your blood system is the nourishment for your entire body. Similarly, the road network and the rail network is the nourishment for or the lifeline of a country's economy. And the phenomenal way in which roads are being implemented. And if we were to step back a bit about a decade and I'd appreciate the prospects that were generated by the golden quadrilateral which was put in place by Vajpayee's government. Okay, I'll give you an example of what kind of appreciation you can get if you have good quality road network. So let's take the case of a city which is very popular, that is Pune. Pune in 19 up to 2000 or even in 2005, you could buy a flat in Kothur, which is a very prime network area of Pune, for about 1000 rupees a square foot. Okay, that market from 2005 to 2013 appreciated almost 8 times. That is 1x every year. Okay, today you cannot buy a property in Kothur for less than 2 crores. The same kind of flat that I'm talking about. And if you see the network of roads that has happened, is that you have a ring road with 7 entries going into the city. The NH4 bypass, it has got 7 roads which lead into the city, 7 exits to and from the city. And growth has happened along those, and that is how the taken off. So what happens is that spur new areas, geographies, connect new geographies, bring them to closer in time, not necessarily in distance. But a 5-hour journey, if it gets reduced to 2 hours, you see economic activity pick up around both sides. Land prices always appreciate when a road is put up. Okay, so this road creation lead to wealth. Okay, and this wealth creation where property price is going to lead to sale of properties because people are going to come and invest. So some will invest in land, some that land, buildings will come up. We are already as I spoke to you, an under housed country. Our population is growing at about 1%, 1.3% every year. In the next 10 years, we'll be 1.4 billion people, or 10 crores added more than today. So we are increasingly families, 3 to 4 people max. So that many houses are required. So the cement industry is really going because of this. Okay, so these are the drivers that are in place. Having okay, while the drivers of cement are in place, the supply has exceeded the demand. Okay, so what has happened is we've got 70% utilized. We were at 60% couple of years back. We are now inching a little north of 70% utilization. Okay, and the country is going to add another 75 million ton of cement on the 490 metric tons that we have over the next over the period 21 to 23. So as we into the 30s, after past 20, when we move there, new capacity is going to come. So what is going to happen is that cement demand is going to slightly be lesser than the cement creation itself, right? So what will happen is in the micro markets where the capacities don't come up, they will blossom. Okay, so for example, you had huge capacities in south, prices were the lowest. In the east, you had huge demand growth coming in, where capacity is not there. Pricing was very premium, but with capacities now coming there, price will fall a bit, but it will not fall completely because of the fact that the distances that you northeast is very long. So the freight cost will costs of end uh, customer cost elevated, right? Uh, Pet coke, if it gets banned, even for the cement sector, we'll have additional challenges from costing point of view. Okay, The good part is that the GST, which is at 28%, will be brought down to 18%, which will make buying cement cheaper, right? So the input cost of a dwelling would go down, and hence it would become more affordable to buy. So, it's going to trigger demand. So having, this is how we analyze the entire cement sector. This is how we analyze the, uh, how should I put it, just going back to our title, business prospects and what is the opportunity heat map. So if you were to come down to picking up stocks which are there in this segment, let us say you are bullish on the housing space, and because you're bullish on the housing, you're bullish on the cement demand supply, then when you're looking at cement, what you should see is which chrome is this a particular company addressing, and what is the number of suppliers around there, from where will the stock come, how much distance can the stock travel, okay, what is the energy security players, you know. So let us say Shri is, if he's in up north and he's buying imported coal, then that coal is actually being shipped from the uh, Australia to the coast and then coming to North India. On the other hand, if you take the company which is on the Gujarat, okay, and so because it's a coastal based thing, he's in coastal shipping, right? In Gujarat, you can come to sea route, and sea route is much cheaper to transport. You can transport in bulk. You can do localized packaging. So there are a lot of these things factors good. So this is how we analyze a sector. Then we look at incentives given, backward state incentives. So there are a lot of incentives given to the cement sector, up factories in certain regions. You do size and all those factors that are there. So having said that, uh, I wanted to conclude the class in minutes. But before we do that, I wanted you to take a couple of assignments. So the first assignment is that I would like you to take 5 stocks randomly and write a note about each company's promoter, its management team or professionals. You can use all available sources to aggregate data with social media, internet website, references, your content, etc. So this is your first exercise based around dimension 1. And assignment 2 is to undertake an analysis of the steel industry for dimension 2 in mind. So how we the uh, cement sector, in the same, I would like you to do your own analysis of the steel industry segment and submit it to me. Okay, you can take more than you can submit to me next Thursday, right? So take your time to work on this. You can use broker reports, it's okay. We are doing a learning exercise. We are not on an intelligence exercise. We are on accumulation of data. Okay, you can use government websites, other internet resources, and even industry personnel and your contacts to take this up. So thank you for having me, and all who have not signed up for the course and who have also joined us, a big thank you to you too. And if you're interested in this course, still have one more class remaining where you can take your decision, and after that you can continue by paying the fees. If you're interested, you can WhatsApp me, and take this forward. So thank you very much, uh, and a big clap to all of you for taking the time to invest in the business of stock picking, so that it becomes uh, a passion to you, and that passion can lead to rewards from stock picking and investing. And thank you very much.